cloud. Okay, so it's a little dark. Let me share my screen so we can get started. Um, I'll do desktop. I'll do desktop one. So the difference is this desktop one is on this computer, and it actually had I've got extra screen essentially on this computer than what is projected on the projector. There we go. Ooh, hopefully it didn't stop that. Still going good. All right. Um, Hide video panel? No, not that one. Hide floating media meeting controls. Control Alt Shift H. Control Alt Shift H. There we go. Now it's back. Control Alt Shift H. Hopefully I don't forget that. All right. So I've got that. Let me close this. I need to install FileZilla on this computer. So sudo apt install FileZilla. Okay, good. Got Visual Studio on this one already. All right. I'm actually gonna need one of the lights on. Oh. Moet Okay. So we're on starting week 3 already. All right, so week 3 is cascading style sheets. Um, there's some stuff on week 2 that we didn't cover yet that I would like to cover. So let's look at the file input element. I don't like this layout here. Okay, so file input element is on page 51. Did you all get your book or no? You haven't ordered it? You guys need to order the book? Huh? You're supposed to order the book. Yeah, it's on the syllabus. And we talked about it the first day of class. It's the Full Stack Web Development for Beginners by Riaz Ahmed. Complete e-commerce project, the one on HTML, CSS, Bootstrap, JavaScript, PHP, and MySQL. It's this one here. So there's a link in I'm not sure if I put in the announcements, but oh, it's also on the syllabus. Um, on a link to it, so you can get it in Amazon. I think I also found it on eBay and a few other places. Unfortunately, there is no digital copy or version of the book. But yes, you need that book. File input. Okay, definition and usage. The input type file defines a file, select fields, and a browser button for file uploads. To define a file, select field that allows multiple files to be selected at the multiple attributes. Always use the label tag for best accessibility and practices. This element is part of the forms element. So let me just go over this one element real quick, and then I'll go over the forms. So to allow users to upload their documents, images, videos, or other files to your web server, you again use the input element with type file attribute. In such situations, you must set the method attribute value to post. The accept attribute specifies the type of files that the server accepts. To specify more than one value, separate the values with a comma. For example, accept equals audio / asterisk um, comma video / asterisk comma image / asterisk. Okay, so let's create the file upload element real quick. So here I am going to put it under my documents in this computer. Okay, so new file um, element.html. So as always, start off with the doc type declaration. Can you guys see that? Yeah. HTML, head, title, body. For the title, file input element. And then in the body, we're going to type in the following. And this is where we just want to this other side. So first we're gonna use the form element. There you go. Let me turn on word wrap. And for the form, we're gonna say action is equal to http colon / www.abc.com upload.php. The method is going to be post. The upload your image in a GIF format. And then we do the input. Type equals file. Name equals logo. Accept equals image / GIF. So that specifies the type of images that can be uploaded. And then we're going to do another input. Type is equal to submit. Value is equal to upload. Save it. Let me open it up. Right. So this is what it looks like. Since it's a file upload, it gives us a browse button. And then I'm able to browse for images. I don't have any images there, so let's look for one. Images.google.com, tux GIF. That's not a GIF. It says GIF. All right, so there we go. Ah, there's our GIF. Open it, and then we can upload. 403 error. The request could not be satisfied. This distribution is not configured to allow HTTP request method that was used for this request. The distribution supports only cacheable requests. We can't connect to the server for this app or website at this time. Yeah, so that URL is not currently working. Okay, so what is a form? A form has multiple uses, multiple fields. In a form, you can create a text box. You can create um, a like a password field or user field. Uh, you can create checkboxes, radio buttons. You can use it to upload files. A lot of times you use it just to submit information. Um, right, it's a lot like have you ever used Google Forms? That in itself is a form. So here, let's go to W3 schools and search for forms, HTML forms. An HTML form is used to collect user inputs. The user input is most often sent to a server for processing. So here's an example. First name, John, last name, Doe. Let me try this URL instead. Okay. Image is still selected. Upload. Let's try this again. No input file specified. I got form twice. Oh, form submitted data. Your input was received as logo. The server has processed your input and returned this answer. All right. So the form elements, the HTML form element is used to create an HTML form for user input. So you got form, and then between the opening and closing form elements you will enter other form elements, such as the input. The form element is a container for different types of input elements, such as text fields, checkboxes, radio buttons, submit buttons, etc. All the different form elements are covered in this chapter, HTML form elements. The input element. The HTML input element is the most used form element. An input element can be displayed in many ways depending on the type attribute. Here are some examples. Let's go ahead and create a input element. So I'm going to create a new HTML file, and I'm going to call this one element form elements. I'm going to copy the information from my other form just to save myself some time. Okay. Inputs, type text, display a single line text input field. So input, type text, type is equal to text. Save it and I open it in the browser. Okay. Let me free up some space. Form elements. Form element. I'm missing an S. There we go. So here's our input box. All right. The input type radio displays a radio button for selecting one of many choices. So let's create a radio. Oh. Input type equals radio. And here's our radio button. Let me put it in a different line. So I'm going to use a break tag. And let me put a few more radio buttons. Refresh it. The interesting thing about radios is when you group them, you can only select one radio button at a time. Here they're not grouped, so when I select it, I cannot uncheck it. Okay. Input type checkbox displays a checkbox for selecting zero or more of many choices. So input type checkbox. And again, I'm going to create a couple of them, maybe 3. Now I've got three checkboxes. The nice thing about checkboxes is that you can select and deselect them. Okay. The next one is input type submit. Displays a submit button for submitting the form. So reload it, submit query. Since I haven't specified where to submit the information, you know, it's just pretty much refreshing the page. And then finally, input type button displays a clickable button. Right, and there's the button. All the different types, input types are covered in this chapter, HTML input types. Text fields. The input type text defines a single line input for text inputs. So let's expand on that one. So here we have a label for the F name, and then we have the label itself, the name of this. So let's go ahead and go back over here and let's add a label. Label, and then for F name, first name. If I save it and I go back to my form, I refresh it. Now my input box has a label in front of it. Okay, in this example, we have first name and last name. And then on the input field, we have type text, ID F name, and name F name. I'm gonna go ahead and include that in the label itself. Then let's add the other, the label for last name and the input text box for last name. Okay, so refresh it. Here we go. First name and last name. John Smith. All right. This is how the HTML code above will be displayed in a browser. Now, the only difference between this example and mine is that they're including the break tag to have so that they can have the first name label on top of the box itself. Note the form itself is not visible. Also note that the default width of an input field is 20 characters. Is that so? Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Oh, look at that. I can put in more. The label element. Notice the use of the label element in the example above. The label tag defines a label for many form elements. The label element is useful for screen reader users because the screen reader will read out loud the label when the user focuses on the input element. The label element also helps users who have difficulty clicking on very small regions such as radio buttons or checkboxes. Because when the user clicks the text within the label element, it toggles, it toggles the radio button checkbox. The for attribute of the label tag should be equal to the ID attribute of the input elements to bind them together. Radio buttons. The input type radio defines a radio button. Radio buttons let a user select one of a limited number of choices. Example, a form with radio buttons. So I'm going to copy this HTML code and replace my radio section with that. So here we've got radio type, input type radio, ID is equal to HTML, name is equal to fav underscore language, and value is equal to HTML. Now this value will be the value of that radio button, right? What basically the information that it holds. So when you select that radio button and you submit it, the information in that value is what you're submitting by selecting that radio button. And then here we have input type radio, ID equals CSS, name equals fav underscore language, and value is CSS. And finally, we have the JavaScript, input type radio, ID JavaScript, value JavaScript. Save it, refresh. And as you can see, I can only select one radio button at a time. When I select the second radio button, it'll deselect all other radio buttons in that group. Okay. This is how the HTML codes above will be displayed in a browser. Choose your favorite web language. I don't think I included that part of the form. It's not necessary, but it helps. Choose your favorite web language. Let's add a horizontal line here, as well as in this section here. Let's create some separation. All right. Checkboxes. The input type checkbox defines a checkbox. Checkboxes let a user select 0 or more options of a limited number of choices. A form with checkboxes. So here we've got input type, checkbox, ID vehicle 1, name vehicle 1, value bike. I have a bike. I have a car. I have a boat. I don't have a boat. Not really. Unless you consider a toy boat or paper boat. The submit button. The input type submit defines a button for submitting the form data to a form handler. The form handler is typically a file on the server with a script for processing input data. The form handler is specified in the form's action attribute. A form with a submit button. So here I'm going to copy this. And put it down here as a new form. Now the form action, this is where it sends the information in the form for processing. So here I need to update this URL. And I need to add the w3schools.com/HTML. HTTPS www.w3schools.com/HTML/action_page.php. So refresh it. First name John, last name Doe. Click submit. Okay. So then I don't quite have the right URL here. Let's try removing the HTML part. There it is. Submitted form data. Your input was received as F name equals John and L name equals Doe. The server has processed your input and returned this answer. Okay, let's dissect the codes real quick. So here we've got label for F name, and we got the first name. That's just the label. Input type text, ID F name, name equals F name, value John. So by adding the value attribute to the input element, it will automatically fill the content of the box with that value. The name attribute for inputs. Notice that each input field must have a name attribute to be submitted. If the name attribute is submitted, the value of the input field will not be sent at all. Okay.
Ready to feel the difference in the way you work with multiple databases? DataGrid
a powerful cross-platform tool for relational and
You've been handed plenty of forms throughout your life. At the doctor's office, at school, for activities and programs. If you want to sign up or join something, you're usually going to have to fill out a form. In today's age, these forms are usually on websites and built with HTML. An HTML form is used to collect user input. The user input is then sent to a server for processing. The HTML form element is used to create a form. The form element is a container for different types of elements. One of the most used elements inside a form is the input element. The input element can be displayed in several different ways, depending on its type attribute. We have text fields, checkboxes, radio buttons, submit buttons, etc. Let's look at a real-life example. Input type text defines a single line input field for text. My name is Bill. Input type radio displays a radio button. It lets a user select one option from a number of choices. This one. The burger. Input type checkbox displays a checkbox. It lets a user select many options from a number of choices. Check, 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 check. I'll have all of those on my juicy burger. There are many more input types you can use. Here's a quick list. In addition to the input element, there are several other elements we can use in forms. The select element defines a drop-down list. It's a partially hidden list that drops down with a list of options that you can choose from. I'll pick this up at 5 o'clock. The text area element defines a multi-line input field, where the user can input text with more than just a few words, like a comment field. I would like my burger super well done. Finally, let's add a submit button so Bill can send in his order. Input type submit defines a submit button. I'm so hungry. When submitting a form, the user input is sent to a file on a server for processing. To become a form expert, take a deeper dive into forms at W3schools.com.
Okay, so this week or today, I'm going to post an assignment regarding forms. And what I want you to do is once you do it, you submit it. You're gonna upload your form to your webpage through your FTP account that I gave you, and you're gonna submit the URL to that form. Right? It's a very simple assignment, straightforward. Once we get to the PHP part, we're actually going to be using forms quite a bit. Right? Because we use forms to create a login page, right? To create posts. We use forms to be able to submit data into our database for our website, right? For our web applications. So what's the shortcut again? Control Alt Shift H. There we go. Stop the recording.